Hi everyone, welcome to the ElectricmotorGP show. My name is Lee and I'm your usual host, and today I've deviated for the plan for what we were supposed to be doing. And I promised in one of the early videos that I was going to do a deep dive into the different car conglomerates in China, so we could see what their plans were, what products were available, what seems to be the ongoing things that are going on with each of the companies. And I was supposed to be starting with either BYD or SAIC, and that video is still likely to be coming across very soon. But for this, a couple of things have happened in the last few weeks that has meant that I've had to change plans a little bit. So this video is going to be divided into two. The first bit is going to try and address some of the things that have happened with regards to an interview that was granted by the CEO of GWM, and that's Wei Jianjun, and its impact on everyone within the auto sector in China, especially talking about whether or not there's going to be any troubles or debt issues with any of the major automakers in China. Now, I've got a bit of a response here that I've got to read because I've got to be careful. This morning I woke up to find out that BYD is allegedly suing about 23 influencers in China for bringing out defamatory comments. I'm going to start off the bat. I'm only going to be saying things that I know that have been said by a reliable news outlet. But I'm also going to be saying things that are my opinion in it, and it's important for you to try and understand that my opinion in it is something that you can take or you can dismiss. So BYD, don't come suing me. I haven't got any money for you to get. But let's talk about the first part of it. So the CEO of GWM came out with comments to say there's an Evergrande in the auto sector in China, and this is a catastrophe waiting to happen or something along those lines. And it caused a lot of problems and a lot of things that are coming out as to whether or not there were issues, especially around the zero mileage second-hand cars that were coming on sale in the second-hand market, which is making it very difficult for second-hand cars to be able to get sold. So there is a lot that needs to be done in that space, and I'm not going to be the one to be able to do that. The PR executive for BYD has had to come out to do a very deep dive and detailed analysis of the financial situation of different auto companies in China. Now, I'm going to read this specifically so that I don't get misquoted and I don't get sued. So his words were, BYD's debt ratio is 70%. You've got to look at it from the perspective of Ford's, which has a higher debt ratio at 84%. General Motors has got 76%. Apple is 80%. Boeing's 102%. Geely 68%, and Sarah 76%. This is all according to Lee, who's the Lee Yunfei, which is the PR exec for BYD. In terms of interest-bearing liabilities, he also mentions that BYD is significantly lower than all its peers, saying that according to annual reports, BYD's interest-bearing debt is 28.6 billion RMB, compared to 86 billion for Geely, compared to SAIC's 94 billion, compared to Toyota's 1.8 trillion, compared to Ford's 1.1 trillion, and Volkswagen's 1 trillion. So in comparison to everyone else, BYD's got very little interest-bearing loans that it's got to pay attention to. It also talks about accounts payable. This was one of the things that was brought up as BYD's really screwing over its suppliers. And it says accounts payable to suppliers, BYD's got 244 billion, SAIC has got 241.1 billion, Geely has got 182. This is all according to Lee. I don't have the facts on that. I'm just stating what was said. And this report was done by CNEV News. And it mentions that BYD suppliers, payment cycle to suppliers is 127 days. Geely is 127 days. GWM is 163 days. SAIC is 164 days. Again, this is according to Lee. Finally, one of the things he mentioned that happens to be the most significant in there is the fact that BYD's cash at hand is 154.1 billion in comparison to its 544 billion debt profile. So basically what BYD was, Lee Yunfei was trying to say was that BYD is financially stable. And it doesn't have anything to be worried about. And different people have done similar analysis in the past, and they will back this up. However, this does not take away from the fact that there's an alleged problem with zero mileage cars going on the market and on the second-hand market, which is distorting the second-hand market and causing problems for people trying to sell second-hand cars. Now, the extent to which this is affecting the new car market and the whole Chinese auto industry is difficult to say, and I don't have enough information about that. But what I found amusing was the fact that BYD is able to pull influencers when they say things that they think might be positive, and then go after them when they say things that might be negative. Now, there's got to be a balance somewhere, and I think BYD needs to start to look at things and change its profile in that regard. To be fair, BYD is not the only person that sues influencers. Tesla's done this before. Multiple other companies have done this in China, and it seems to be a thing that the Chinese industry uses to silence people that do have criticism of them. So I don't know how the Chinese government is going to address this, and whether or not there's going to be some flexibility that needs to be done. Yes, if someone's intentionally providing false information, there needs to be some way of addressing that, and this is something that it's important, but there needs to be a little bit of a balance in there that needs to be addressed. Now, this takes me to the second half of what I was going to do today, and it has to do with 5 things that I think BYD needs to address and why they seem to be having issues at the moment. So BYD has set itself an ambitious target of selling between 5.5 to 6 million cars, allegedly, for 2025. And that's on the fact that they've had year-on-year growth, and last year they were able to achieve over 4 million car sales. So definitely everyone expecting multiple things of them in this particular year, and people were expecting that BYD was going to grow, and the growth was going to be maintain that same level of astronomical growth that they've had in the last 4 to 5 years, growing from 400,000 cars in 2019 to over 4 million cars in 2024, which is a massive growth spurt. But BYD, this is my 2 cents. I know you follow different social media outlets, and I would like you to follow mine so that you can get some of the feedback I give. But I'm going to tell you a few things, and you can have a look at it and have a think about it and think, is he right? Is he wrong? And you could take it with a pinch of salt, but this is my 2 cents. I've got 5 things that I think that you're doing wrong, and I think if you can address these 5 things, you probably will be able to fix a lot of problems that you've got going. First of all, the strategy you had for growing your company is not going to be the same strategy you've got to maintain that growth. One bit, you're doing a lot to invite people into your sphere. And the amount of money that you're going to spend to invite people into your sphere is not going to be as much as the money that you spend to keep people in your sphere, which is what I'm talking about, brand loyalty. And you're not doing enough to do brand loyalty at the moment. The discounts you're doing at different points in time definitely affects the consumers that have bought your products, because it means that you've reduced the sell-on value of the cars that they've got. The second thing, again, in tying back to the brand loyalty and then having a structure and a plan in place for your development. In February, you came out with the God's Eye plan, and everyone lauded you with the fact that you were coming out with the God's Eye plan. You were going to make autonomous driving available to every single car at every single price point at different grades. So the base model was going to have the God's Eye C or Pilot 100. The intermediate level is going to have God's Eye B or Pilot 300, and the Super Reach and Novo Reach were going to have the God's Eye A or Pilot 600, which was going to be the all singing, all dancing, autonomous driving options. And everyone was super proud of you. And then a few weeks later, we found out you were not going to retrofit it into your cars for 2024 or cars from 2025. What did that do? As a guy who was actually considering a Sea Lion 7, you put me off buying it straight away. Straight away. Because I realized for a fact that any car that I was buying was going to be obsolete before I could say Jack Robinson. So if I bought a car from you, which I was supposed to pick up the delivery of sometime in March, and my car was going to be obsolete before it even got to me, why would I buy it? This is a mistake on your part. Now, this is another thing that whoever is in charge of your strategy needs you and them to sit down and have a think about. The cost you're going to put through to doing the discounts, and I would assume is going to be significantly lower than the cost for you to retrofit the cars with the God's Eye C, which is the basic minimum you could have done. And if you had said, oh, every car that was built 2024, 25, received in this particular point prior to the launch of the God's Eye B, God's Eye C, God's Eye A, will be retrofitted with God's Eye C at the barest minimum. And every single customer of yours would have been super proud to own a BYD. The level of loyalty that you would have got would have been astronomical. But you didn't do that. You said you were not going to retrofit it. And therefore, anyone who was going to be ordering a car, was waiting for a car, would look at it and go, no, we're not going to do this. And if you remember, sometime in March, there was a lawsuit, or there were rumblings that there was going to be a lawsuit that consumers were going to sue you for making their cars obsolete. And basically, again, it goes back to point A. You've made the cars that were coming out obsolete before you made the cars that were on the market obsolete within a very short period of time. Automatically, which meant all of us, or all the people that actually did buy it, because I just said no. You made their cars obsolete, which means the resale value tanked. Now, point 3. Withholding technology to the point in which it makes it very, very difficult. I'm going to compare you to Zeekr, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a fan of Zeekr. Like I've said, I'm not a fan of their customer service, and they've got to do a lot more to convince me to do anything, to say very positive things about them. However, they've got a strategy, and this strategy seems to work. Zeekr's got in-house a lynk&co 900. The lynk&co 900 was always going to steal the thunder from the Zeekr 9X. In terms of what you were getting at the price point, everyone was going to be migrating towards the lynk&co 900. So what did Zeekr do? They launched the lynk&co 900 2 weeks before the Shanghai Auto Show and launched the 9X at the Shanghai Auto Show. Therefore, making sure that both of them were not obsolete, and therefore making sure that there was not a stealing of thunder or stealing of headlines from one vehicle to the other. How did this apply to you? You knew you had 2 versions of the version 3.0 blade batteries coming out. You had one that had a higher density but was not going to be able to do the 1 megawatt charging, and you had the one that was going to be able to do the 1 megawatt charging. You knew this was going to come out for a while, and rather than put the higher density battery into the Sea Lion 7, for example, you announced the Sea Lion 7 and said the new battery was not going to go into Sea Lion 7. Automatically meaning that everyone that wanted to buy the Sea Lion 7 and was aware that the new battery was coming out were going to be reluctant to buy it. Now, no one can force you to do what you want to do with your cars. But if you're wondering why your sales are not going as quickly as they should, or why people are backing off your sales, this is one of the reasons why. You're looking in the wrong places at the moment as to why your sales are not growing in the manner that you would expect. I will say this, for example. If the Sea Lion 7 had come out with the new blade battery, and even if it was going to be obsolete from the God's Eye C, the fact that I would have a car that can charge rapidly, that had better range. So my 90 kilowatt hour battery with a higher density, which meant that I would be able to do 500-600 kilometers on a single charge, which meant that I could charge a little bit better than what the Sea Lion 7 can charge at the moment, will definitely mean that the Sea Lion 7 would be a car I'd go for. But the fact that you were still using your battery from 3 or 4 years ago in the Sea Lion 7, knowing fully well that the new battery was coming out, already made the car obsolete, going back to the second point I made. And if you keep making cars that are going to be obsolete within 6 months, why would anyone want to buy them? It's a lot of money to invest in a car that is going to be obsolete within 6 months, which means that my resale value is going to tank. Charging. you've come out with the 1 megawatt charger. You've restricted it to only the top of the line car. That is fine. But your current cars can only charge between 150 and 230. You've got this technology available to it. You could have done anything from 3C to 5C in your cars. But you haven't. So I'll give you an example. The Xpeng G6 came out a year ago, 2 years max. Xpeng already is aware that, look, we've got a problem. We can do 3C at the moment, 10 or 80% in 20 minutes. Zikio 7X can do, Golden Brick battery can do 10 or 80% in 9 to 12 minutes, depending on the charger. 9 to 13. And all of a sudden, what has Xpeng done? Xpeng has paused the cars that they're making at the moment. They've gone back, they've reevaluated the battery. They've made some adjustments. So instead of making it at the 85 or 87 kilowatts that it is on the current Xpeng, they dropped it down to 80 kilowatts. The average person is not going to mind too much about that if they can still get over 500 kilometers of range in the car. But what they would appreciate is being able to go to a charging point and be able to charge their car in 12 to 13 minutes. So the new batteries from Xpeng are 5C. There is no 5C BYD charger available right now. You've got the Tang L and the Han L, which are both capable of doing 1 megawatt, and the next thing down from there is 230. You've got the technology. I know that because I know you've got the battery. I also know you've got that because I know you can do 1 megawatt. But that gap is way too much. So this is one of the things that I think you're still struggling with. The cycle program and confusion in the number of cars that you're bringing out. I'm a fan of your market segmentation. I've always been a fan of your market segmentation, but it's becoming confusing. So that's the fourth thing, or is it the fifth? I watched one of the YouTubers invite somebody on and they criticized you for having too many cars in too many segments, and that was one of the reasons why you were failing. And I looked at it and said, you've got to be completely out of it to be saying that. What has BYD done? BYD has made it that if you're coming in at the entry level in China and you've got the equivalent of about $7,000 to $8,000, you can buy a BYD car. You've got the BYD Seagull. You've exported that car to Europe. You've exported it to the UK. It's coming to a few other markets. Please bring it to Australia if you can. And all of a sudden, young people can aspire to a BYD car. But the nomenclature of your cars means there's a lot of confusion about which car means what. So, for example, you've got this Sea Lion 7. You've got this Sea Lion 7 DMI. You could have done Sea Lion 7 DMI, Sea Lion 7 Coupe, Sea Lion 7 full shape, and make sure everything is Sea Lion 7. You've got the Sea Lion 6, or is it the Seal 06? And then you've got the regular Seal. Again, you're causing confusion. You could have called it the Seal Mini, which therefore makes it easy for anyone who's understanding that you can get the full Seal at this, and the Seal 06 is the mini version of the Seal, which is slightly more affordable, which makes it easier. Your nomenclature is causing a significant amount of confusion and making it very difficult for people that want to buy your cars, especially out of China, to know exactly what it is they want. Now, I've given you this few tips for free. If you want to find out more, there's a lot more. I've done a deep dive into you, and I'm more than happy to sit down with one of you guys to talk you through what I think you're doing wrong. But if you fix this 4 things or 5 things I've mentioned to you, definitely I believe your sales will go up. You've got to remember, you've got to have a good product, and you mostly have good products. It's just the execution at the final stages is a bit lacking. And for God's sake, go get someone to help you with the tuning of your chassis. That's the final thing. I'm going to give you a simple analogy, a simple fact, and you can go away, think about this, and understand this, and it should make things very easy. Your car designs prior to getting Wolfgang Eggers onto your payroll were not impressive. and it affected your car sales because people that wanted to buy your car were not impressed with the designs. You paid Wolfgang Eggers to join your team. Your designs have been phenomenal since. So no one can fault the design architecture of a BYD car now. No. But they can fault your handling and your chassis. I drove your BYD Sea Lion 6. It felt very wafty. It goes into corners with a very tardy suspension. I drove the Sea Lion 7. There was an upgrade on it. You've got 100,000 engineers. If you poach 2 or 3 people or 20 people from the Germans and got them to help you build your suspensions a bit better, I don't think anyone will be able to compete. Not even Zika. And that's the final piece of the jigsaw that's missing. You fix that and you're sorted. So this is me giving you the tips for free. I'm not charging you any consultation fees. I'm not charging. Why am I doing this? It's simple. I want there to be enough competition in the car segment that the average end user will be able to get a decent car. But like I said, if you want more, you're gonna have to come. You're gonna have to come to me and negotiate, and we'll be able to talk about it. So for the rest of you guys because this video seems to be me talking directly to BYD, what do you think? Have I missed anything? Are there things that you think BYD could do a little bit better? And if there are things they could do better, put them in the comment section. I promise you they do read the comment sections, and you guys definitely underestimate how much they read that. At least I'm aware of 2 things I've mentioned in the videos that have gotten fixed in the last 6 months in different car brands. So if you guys really think there's specific things that you think that this companies could do better with, put them in the comment section. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Don't forget, please like, share, and subscribe. I cannot continue to do this without you guys signing up and staying on board. I was looking at the stat. My Google feed gave me a summary of the last 6 months. I've got 91% new customers and only 8% of you guys are returning. So please come back, please like, please share, please comment on the page. The only way I can keep doing this for you guys is if you guys engage, and if you do, it will make me very happy. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay blessed.